What if the reason you still can't speak English has nothing to do with your intelligence? What if it has nothing to do with your age, your memory, or even your grammar? And what if the problem isn't that you know too few words, but that you've never truly made the words you already know part of your life? I want you to sit with that thought for a moment. Because for years, many of us have believed the same story. We need more vocabulary. We need another textbook. We need another course. We need to memorize another 1,000 words. I understand that feeling. As human beings, we often believe that more is always better. More information, more lessons, more rules, more words. But life has taught me something very different. Growth doesn't always come from adding more. Sometimes it comes from understanding what you already have. Sometimes freedom begins when you stop chasing everything and start appreciating something. The same is true with English. You don't become a confident speaker because you know every difficult word. You become a confident speaker because simple words become your friends. You know them, you trust them, you use them without fear. Today, I want to invite you to look at English differently. Not as a mountain you must climb, but as a conversation waiting for you. Imagine meeting someone for the first time. Would they care if your vocabulary contained 10,000 words? No. They would care if you could smile, if you could introduce yourself, if you could understand them, if you could express one honest thought. Communication has never been a competition. It has always been a connection. And connection begins with simple language. I have met many people who underestimate simple things. Simple kindness, simple gratitude, simple courage, simple words. Yet these are often the things that change our lives. English is no different. A few words used sincerely are far more valuable than thousands of words trapped inside a notebook. Let me ask you something. When children learn their first language, do they begin with thousands of words? Of course not. They repeat the same words every day. Mom, Dad, come, go, eat, drink, look. Again. And somehow, without realizing it, those few words slowly become hundreds, then thousands, not because they memorized them, but because they lived them. That is how every language grows, through use, not through pressure. Perhaps somewhere along the way, we forgot this. As adults, we became afraid of sounding simple. We thought speaking simple English meant speaking poor English. But simplicity is not weakness. Simplicity is clarity, and clarity is powerful. Some of the most inspiring conversations I have ever heard were filled with ordinary words. The emotions made them unforgettable, not the vocabulary. Think about someone telling another person, I missed you. Only 3 words. No complicated grammar. No advanced expressions. Yet those words can make someone cry. Language has never been about impressing people. It has always been about reaching people. That is why I want today's conversation to feel different. I don't want you counting how many new words you hear. I want you noticing how often simple words appear. Because once you see that pattern, you can never unsee it. The next time you watch an interview, listen carefully. Successful people, scientists, athletes, teachers, parents, friends, they all return to the same group of common words. Think, feel, know, want, need, try, help, good, bad. Today, tomorrow, why, how, again and again. Fluency is often repetition wearing different clothes. One idea, expressed naturally, not decorated unnecessarily. There is a young waiter I once imagined meeting while traveling. He wasn't fluent, not even close. But every evening, he welcomed visitors with confidence. Good evening. How are you? This way. Would you like tea? Please wait a moment. His vocabulary was small. His confidence was enormous. Why? Because every sentence belonged to him. He had spoken those sentences hundreds of times. He didn't translate them. He didn't search for them. He simply lived them. That is what confidence looks like. Not knowing everything, Knowing something so well that it becomes part of who you are. I believe many English learners accidentally train the wrong habit. They train recognition, not communication. They recognize thousands of words, but they rarely invite those words into real conversations. Recognition feels safe. Speaking feels vulnerable. So naturally, we choose safety until one day someone asks us a simple question. What did you do today? And suddenly, everything disappears. Not because we don't know English, because we haven't practiced owning it. There is an important difference between learning a word and trusting a word. You may know the word decide, but have you ever said, I decided to wake up earlier. I can't decide. Have you decided yet? I'm trying to decide. The more situations a word enters, the stronger it becomes. Like a tree growing deeper roots with every season. Vocabulary grows exactly the same way. Not wider first. Deeper first. Imagine your English as a small garden. Many learners keep planting new seeds every day, but they never water yesterday's flowers. Soon, the garden becomes crowded. Nothing grows strong. Instead, choose a few flowers. Water them daily. Watch them bloom. Only then plant another. Slow growth often creates lasting growth. There is another misunderstanding I'd love to gently challenge. Many people believe fluent speakers think faster because they know more words. I don't think that's the whole story. They think faster because familiar words arrive without effort. Their minds are not searching. Their minds are communicating. That difference changes everything. Think about driving a bicycle for the first time. Every movement requires attention. Balance. Pedals. Brakes. Direction. Later, your body remembers. You no longer think about riding. You simply ride. English should eventually feel the same. Not perfect. Natural. I once heard someone say they had forgotten almost every English word they memorized in school. I smiled. Not because forgetting is good, but because I knew something else. Words disappear when they stay on paper. Words stay when they enter real life. If today you tell yourself, I feel sleepy. Tomorrow, I'm feeling much better. The next day, I felt nervous before the meeting. Those feeling words begin creating emotional memories. And emotional memories last longer than mechanical repetition. Your brain remembers experiences, not lists. So instead of asking, how many words should I memorize today? Try asking, how many words can I genuinely use today? That single question can completely change your learning journey. Maybe today you only use 10 words. Wonderful. Use those 10 words beautifully. Tomorrow, use them again. Add one more. Real progress often looks surprisingly ordinary. There is no dramatic moment, no fireworks, no magical breakthrough. One day, you simply notice that English no longer feels foreign. It feels familiar. And familiarity creates confidence. Let me give you something practical. Tomorrow morning, before touching your phone, look around your room. Describe 5 things out loud. The bed is comfortable. The window is open. My water is cold. The weather looks nice. I need to clean my desk. Simple? Yes. Powerful? Absolutely. Because those sentences belong to your real life. Real life creates real memory. Textbooks introduce language. Life strengthens it. Another beautiful habit is asking yourself gentle questions throughout the day. What am I doing? Why am I smiling? Where am I going? Who am I meeting? What should I cook tonight? Notice something interesting. You probably already know every word inside those questions. You don't need advanced English to practice advanced thinking. You only need consistency. People often ask me, when will I finally become fluent? I understand that question. We all want certainty. We all want to know when our hard work will finally become visible. But language doesn't always announce its arrival. It quietly becomes part of you. One conversation feels easier. One sentence comes faster. One fear disappears. One smile appears. Then another. then another. Growth whispers before it speaks loudly. That is why patience is not your enemy. It is your companion. If I could give every English learner one gift, it wouldn't be a dictionary. It would be courage. Because courage allows you to use imperfect words. And imperfect words spoken courageously teach you far more than perfect words never spoken. Please don't wait for perfect English before starting conversations. Conversations are exactly what create better English. Imagine standing beside a river. You don't learn to swim by reading about water. Eventually, you step in. At first, slowly, awkwardly. Then naturally, language asks for the same courage. Perhaps today your sentence is short. Tomorrow it becomes longer. Next month it becomes smoother. But every sentence matters. Even the imperfect ones. Especially the imperfect ones. There is another exercise I deeply love. Choose one familiar word. Perhaps the word change. Now spend one day using it in different situations. I want to change my habits. The weather changed. My plans changed. Nothing has changed. People can change. Suddenly one word begins opening many doors. Instead of collecting another 50 words, you discover 50 lives inside one word. That is where real richness begins. Sometimes people believe confidence arrives after fluency. I think the opposite often happens. A little confidence creates more speaking. More speaking creates more fluency. Fluency creates even more confidence. It becomes a beautiful circle. You don't have to wait until the end before taking the first step. You create the ending by taking the first step. So today, please stop measuring yourself against impossible standards. Don't compare your English with someone who has practiced for 20 years. Compare today's voice with yesterday's voice. That comparison tells the truth. Every small improvement deserves respect. Because every fluent speaker was once someone searching for simple words. Just like you. Before we finish today's conversation, I want you to pause for one quiet moment. Think of 3 English words you already know. Only 3. Now create 3 honest sentences about your own life. Not someone else's life. Yours. Say them slowly. Listen to your own voice. Don't judge it. Just let it exist. Because every sentence you speak is another promise you make to yourself. A promise that you are no longer waiting to become an English speaker someday. You are becoming one today. Maybe not perfectly, but genuinely, and genuine progress is always more beautiful than imagined perfection. So if someone asks you how many words you need before you begin speaking English confidently, smile. Remember this lesson. It isn't about chasing endless vocabulary. It's about deeply knowing the words already waiting inside you. Use them. Trust them, repeat them, live with them, allow them to become part of your everyday story. One conversation, one sentence, one moment at a time. And someday, almost without noticing when it happened, you will realize something extraordinary. English is no longer a subject you study. It has quietly become another way you share your heart. Even the smallest conversations can become powerful teachers. Imagine you're buying fruit at a local market. You don't need complicated English. You simply need words that work. How much is this? Can I have 2? That's all. Thank you. Now imagine saying those same kinds of sentences hundreds of times over the course of a year. Without realizing it, your pronunciation becomes smoother. Your confidence grows. Your brain stops translating every word. Because repetition transforms effort into instinct. That is why I don't want you to fall in love with difficult English. I want you to fall in love with useful English. Useful English changes your life. Difficult English often only changes your notebook. Think about the conversations you have every single day. You wake up. You talk about the weather. You ask someone how they're feeling. You explain what happened yesterday. You share what you hope will happen tomorrow. These conversations don't require thousands of unusual words. They require familiar words used with honesty. And honesty is something every language understands. Sometimes, People tell me they feel embarrassed because they speak slowly. I want you to hear this carefully. Speaking slowly is not failure. Speaking clearly is a gift. Many native speakers pause while speaking. They think. They smile. They search for the right expression. Fluency has never meant speaking without pauses. It means continuing without fear. So if you need a moment to think, take it. Silence is not your enemy. Giving up is. There is another beautiful habit I hope you begin today. Become curious about ordinary moments. When you make breakfast, describe what you're doing. I'm cutting bread. I'm making coffee. The water is hot. This smells wonderful. Simple observations. Simple words. Real English. Your home can become your classroom without buying anything new. Your daily routine already contains thousands of opportunities to practice. You simply haven't looked at it that way before. Imagine carrying a tiny notebook. Not to collect hundreds of new words, only to collect sentences you actually used. Maybe today you wrote, I forgot my keys. Tomorrow, I'm feeling much better. Next week, I'll call you later. Those sentences tell the story of your real life. And because they belong to you, your brain remembers them more easily. Language connected to emotion lasts longer than language connected to obligation. One learner once believed she had terrible memory. Every week she memorized dozens of vocabulary lists. Every week she forgot most of them. Then she changed one habit. Instead of memorizing isolated words, she started keeping a daily English diary using only simple language. I felt tired today. I met an old friend. I cooked dinner. I laughed a lot. Nothing extraordinary. Yet after a few months, something extraordinary happened. She stopped searching for those words. They simply appeared. Not because her memory suddenly became better, because those words had become part of her own experiences. That is how language becomes alive. Not through perfection, through repetition, connected to life. There is something else I'd like you to notice. Many learners spend years asking, what does this word mean? Very few ask, when would I actually say this? That second question is often far more important. Knowing a definition is useful. Knowing the moment a word belongs is transformational. Take the word comfortable. You could memorize its meaning. Or you could actually say, I feel comfortable speaking with my friends. This chair is comfortable. I'm not comfortable with that idea. Suddenly, the word becomes flexible. It begins serving you instead of sitting quietly inside a dictionary. That is exactly what useful vocabulary should do. It should work for you every day. Let's try something together. I'll ask a question. Don't answer inside your head. Answer out loud. Where are you right now? What can you see? How do you feel today? What do you want to do after this video? Notice how nearly every answer comes from common vocabulary. You don't need advanced expressions to answer honestly. Truth usually speaks in simple language. Another mistake many learners make is believing they must sound like someone else. Please don't chase another person's voice. Find your own. Your accent tells the story of your journey. Your pace reflects your confidence. Your choice of words reflects your personality. The goal isn't to erase who you are. The goal is to help more people understand who you are. That is a very different dream. When I think about learning, I often remember that progress is rarely dramatic. A tree does not grow because someone watches it. It grows quietly every day. One invisible change after another. Then, one morning people notice its shade. Your English grows the same way. You may not notice today's improvement, but continue for 6 months, 1 year, 2 years, and someone will say, your English has improved so much. What they notice in one sentence was built through hundreds of ordinary days. So don't underestimate ordinary days. They create extraordinary results. I also encourage you to become comfortable making mistakes. Mistakes are not signs that you're incapable. They are signs that you're participating. No child learns to walk without falling. No musician performs beautifully without practicing wrong notes. Why should language be different? Every mistake teaches your brain something valuable. Every correction becomes another step forward. So instead of saying, I made a mistake, try saying, I learned something today. Those two thoughts create completely different futures. Sometimes people ask me whether grammar matters. Of course it does. Grammar helps people understand us more clearly. But grammar should support communication. It should never replace communication. Imagine owning the world's most beautiful piano. If nobody ever hears you play it, its beauty changes nothing. Knowledge hidden in silence has very little power. Knowledge expressed imperfectly can still inspire someone. Please remember that. One conversation is worth more than 100 silent lessons. If you only have 15 minutes tomorrow, don't spend all 15 searching for new vocabulary. Spend 5 minutes reviewing familiar words. 5 minutes creating sentences. 5 minutes speaking aloud. 15 intentional minutes can accomplish far more than hours of distracted study. Consistency quietly defeats intensity. Again and again. Day after day. I hope that from now on, whenever you learn a new word, you ask yourself 3 gentle questions. Can I use this today? Can I make 3 different sentences with it? Can I teach this word to someone else? If the answer is yes, you've begun turning knowledge into communication. And communication is the true purpose of every language. Perhaps one day you'll realize something beautiful. The English you once struggled to remember is now the English you naturally use while laughing, helping someone, making a friend, sharing an idea, or encouraging another learner who feels exactly the way you once felt. That is when language becomes more than vocabulary. It becomes connection. It becomes confidence. It becomes part of your identity. So don't rush this journey. Walk it. Enjoy it. Speak every day, even if your sentences are short. Trust ordinary words. Celebrate small victories. Keep your curiosity alive. Because every confident English speaker was once someone brave enough to begin with simple words. And today, that person is you. There is one more thought I want to leave with you today. Sometimes we believe that learning a language is about reaching a destination. We imagine that one day we will wake up, speak perfect English, and finally feel confident. But life has shown me that confidence rarely arrives all at once. It grows quietly, almost invisibly. One conversation at a time. One sentence at a time. One brave decision after another. Perhaps today you can only introduce yourself. Tomorrow you may describe your day. Next month you may tell a short story. A year from now, you may comfort a friend, share your dreams, or encourage someone else in English. None of those moments happen overnight. They happen because you refuse to stop. I want you to think about a candle. A candle doesn't remove darkness because it is powerful. It removes darkness because it keeps burning. Even a small light makes a difference. Your English is like that. Every sentence you speak is another small light. Maybe today it seems tiny, but tomorrow it becomes brighter. And eventually, you realize you are no longer afraid of the dark. There is something remarkable about the human mind. It adapts to whatever we repeat. If every day you repeat, I can't speak English, your brain begins believing it. If every day you repeat, I'm learning, I'm improving, I'm becoming more comfortable, your brain slowly begins believing that instead, the words you speak to yourself matter just as much as the words you speak to other people. So please be kind to yourself. Don't become your own harshest teacher. Become your most patient companion. Every learner has days when nothing feels easy. Days when words disappear. Days when pronunciation feels awkward. Days when confidence seems very far away. Those days do not mean you are moving backward. They simply mean you are human. Growth is never perfectly straight. It moves forward, then pauses, then surprises you. Imagine climbing a mountain covered by clouds. Sometimes you cannot see the top. Sometimes you cannot even see how far you've already come. That doesn't mean you aren't making progress. It simply means the clouds are hiding it. Learning English often feels exactly the same. You may not notice your improvement because you hear your own voice every day. But someone who hasn't spoken with you for 6 months may hear an incredible difference. Trust the process, even when the results are still invisible. There is another habit I'd love for you to develop. Celebrate tiny victories. When you understand one new sentence without translating, celebrate. When you answer a question more quickly than before, celebrate. When you remember a word you used to forget, celebrate. Those small moments deserve your attention. Success is not built from one giant achievement. It is built from hundreds of quiet victories that most people ignore. Sometimes we spend so much time looking ahead that we forget how far we've already traveled. Take a moment today and remember your first day of learning English. Perhaps you knew only a few words. Perhaps you felt nervous hearing native speakers. Perhaps every sentence sounded impossibly fast. Now look at yourself. You are listening to this conversation. You are understanding ideas. You are thinking in another language for longer than you once believed possible. That is progress. Never let impatience steal your ability to appreciate it. I also hope you remember that language is not only something you learn, it is something you share. Use your English to ask someone how they are feeling. Use it to thank a teacher. Use it to encourage another learner. Use it to write a message. Use it to tell someone they are important. The purpose of language has never been collecting perfect sentences. Its purpose has always been building human connection. And every connection begins with courage. If one day you forget a word, smile. Explain it another way. If you make a grammar mistake, keep speaking. If someone corrects you, thank them. Then continue. The conversation is always more important than your fear. One day you will look back and realize something beautiful. The things that once frightened you have become ordinary. Introducing yourself, ordering food, having a conversation, watching a movie without subtitles, reading a book, dreaming in English. All of these moments begin with one simple decision: to keep going, not because it is always easy, but because it is always worth it. I hope you never measure your English only by test scores or vocabulary numbers. Measure it by your willingness to communicate. Measure it by the smiles you've shared. Measure it by the conversations you've created. Measure it by the confidence you've gained. Those are the achievements that truly matter. Before we say goodbye, I'd like to leave you with one final practice. When this video ends, don't immediately start another one. Take just 5 quiet minutes. Look around your room. Describe everything you see in English. Talk about your plans for tomorrow. Talk about what made you smile today. Talk about one challenge you're facing. Talk about one dream you refuse to give up. Don't worry if your English isn't perfect. Don't worry if you repeat the same words again and again. Those familiar words are becoming stronger. They are becoming part of you. And one day, without even realizing when it happened, those same simple words will carry conversations you once thought were impossible. So, if there is one message I hope stays with you long after this video ends, it is this. You do not need to know every English word to express your heart. You do not need perfect grammar to create meaningful conversations. You do not need to wait until you feel completely ready. You only need the courage to use what you already know. Trust the simple words. Use them every day. Let them grow with your life. Allow every conversation to teach you something new. And never forget that every fluent speaker you admire once stood exactly where you are now, uncertain, hesitant, and wondering if they would ever become confident. They didn't become fluent because they were extraordinary. They became fluent because they kept showing up. Again, and again, and again, I believe you can do the same. Not because I believe learning English is easy, but because I believe human beings are far more capable than they often realize. So take a deep breath, smile, speak one more sentence today, then another tomorrow. Keep moving forward with patience, kindness, and quiet determination. Your journey has already begun. And I truly hope that one day when English feels as natural as your own thoughts, you'll remember